I think everyone's wanted to be invisible or possibly just hide away for a bit, or maybe they just get a little too anxious about all of the craziness that's happening and so they just want to find a little bit of isolation. But some people have taken this to the extreme. We're going to go into some of the most unusual and most well-known hermits and or antisocial folks that have ever darkened our history. Let's talk about that right now on the Sultan of Small Talk. Certainly, being antisocial isn't exactly all that cool, but some people have taken it to a whole new level. We're talking expanding one's mind in how you can be so weird and or not too popular amongst other folks. Have you not heard of some of the crazy antics of, say, billionaire and former most wealthy person in America, Howard Hughes? Some of the stuff he came up with was just downright out of the movies. Of course they make a movie about this guy. He was absolutely epic in the way that he did things. When you have more money than anyone, and you have a favorite ice cream that Baskin-Robbins then decides to go ahead and cancel called Banana Nut, he had the audacity and the ability to call up Baskin-Robbins and ask for a special order to be made of 350 gallons. Then he had a crew of his people go there and then pick up the ice cream and then build a freezer for this ice cream that he needed. And then he later just decided he didn't like the flavor anymore because he just decided to go back to vanilla. In 1966, he occupied the 2 top floors of the Desert Inn Hotel in Las Vegas. And he was loving it, and he just wanted to stay for months and months, but they wanted him out because they had other guests they needed to rent the space to. So instead of having to leave, he just decided to buy the hotel. And then, because he had the money, he had a neighboring hotel, the Sands, had a really annoying neon sign that he couldn't stand, and instead of just asking them to turn it off, he bought the Sands Hotel next door just so he could take down the sign. What? If you ever wanted to be on the staff for him, he had a huge manual that they had to go through and make sure that they knew and memorized. He was a complete neat freak, and he was also very much worried about germs and the possibility of infection. So just in case you wanted some canned fruit, like some canned peaches, it has been known that you'd have to sanitize the can if you were his staff. Then you'd have to clean it, then clean the can again, then empty it into a bowl, and nobody could touch it. Then and only then he could have his canned cling peaches. The man was a bit obsessed. It's true. He probably had some OCD that was kicking in. Every night he had the same meal prepared for him. A New York strip steak, served medium. He'd have a salad and peas. Now, the peas he wouldn't be able to eat, or nothing on the plate could he eat unless he put it in order from biggest to smallest peas in a row. What's up with that? And Howard Hughes, he got into a trap there for a while where he spent 4 months in a row just in his film studio, just reviewing film footage. He decided to wear nothing but a towel and didn't decide to go ahead and trim his hair or his nails ever again. And he pretty much had 3 meals at that point. He would eat either chocolate, chicken, or milk. That's it. Chocolate, chicken, or milk. Over the last several months, we've all been in a bit of an isolation situation with the pandemic. And of course, people are really grieving internally about what it was like to once have that more social life that we have. But we've had a lot of benefits come of it too. And so here's a list of some of the things that I learned are actually truly beneficial for people who spend some time in isolation. First, your creativity goes up. You've got more time to focus on your efforts, so you can be more mindful of yourself. It's going to improve your concentration as well as some of your motivation. And also, it makes you more empathetic towards others. You don't see people so much, so you can think about them more often. And I've noticed that people are writing more often and making more phone calls to their family and their friends because they can't see them in person as much. These are all really good things, but let's focus on those more so than all the crazy shenanigans that can happen, such as this. Everyone remembers Ted Kaczinsky, right? The Unabomber? Well, he evaded the FBI for years and years, and most of his actions went undetected for, 25 years, something like that. He was one of the brilliant guys who was a mathematics professor, and then later he decided to lead a much more primitive life, escaping to a cabin just to isolate and learn how to live on the land and be self-sufficient. Nothing wrong with any of that stuff. The problem is when you start bombing people and killing them. That's when things start to take a turn for the worst. What about Bobby Fischer? Undoubtedly one of the best chess players of all time, best that America had ever seen. And yet, as much as he was talented, some of his antics and some of the things that had happened thereafter his winning and during some of his most amazing chess victories had led people to just question whether he was completely there. For example, he at one point had removed all of his fillings from his dental records. They had removed them because he was worried that the Soviets were going to be picking up radio transmissions by way of his fillings. Now that's odd. Odd behavior for sure. I don't know if I've ever thought that. Pretty sure I never gave it much consideration. But when you start doing stuff like that, it's going to make you feel a little less comfortable at the chess table when you're across from this guy. The trick is finding the right balance. No one wants to go in the hole when they're in prison. I'm sure being in isolation for 30 years or 30 days or even 30 minutes would be absolutely horrendous. However, sometimes having just a little bit of time where you have some isolation from others is totally worthwhile because it will spark some things that you probably aren't focusing on currently. Some of the characters that we think about are fictionalized characters made famous by authors. For example, the Grinch, who didn't love Dr. Seuss's interpretation of the perfect hermit. Or what about Shrek? Loving me some Shrek. Shrek's the best. However, he really just wanted to stay in isolation. If he could live his entire existence in his swamp without anybody to bother him, that'd be ideal. Or Boo Radley, who's a big fan of To Kill a Mockingbird. That guy there was scary until you actually find out a little bit more about the character. So is a hermit and a recluse the same thing? Well, a recluse is somebody who lives in isolation from society just because they want to stay away from everyone. But a hermit, on the other hand, is somebody who isolates from society but for religious purposes. And hermits have been around for hundreds and hundreds of years. Think of a Buddhist, somebody who spends time in complete quiet and isolation, but so they can concentrate on their religious intention.